And I'm so pleased to now introduce Tom Hayes of New Jersey Resources, who will introduce himself and our panelists. So thank you, Tom, and
Certainly.
everyone enjoy.
Certainly, Chrissy, thank you. And sorry about this speaker view for those of you that have to look at this ugly mug, but that's the way it goes at the moment. I do appreciate the opportunity. I appreciate everybody getting involved. I've looked at a lot of the names and recognize a lot of you folks and you wonderful folks that are all doing that wonderful work in the community. So thank you again for joining us. So this is the creative collaboration for nonprofits and for-profits brought to you by the company I work for, New Jersey Natural Gas, and our parent company, New Jersey Resources. Again, my name is Tom Hayes. I am Director of Customer and Community Relations at New Jersey Natural Gas. And I'm honored that the great folks at the NJBIA have asked me to participate in this. The NJBIA is an extraordinary organization. They just do amazing work. And their wonderful leader, Michelle Sikirka, just again does amazing work, as well as do all the team members that many of you know, all the great work they do throughout the year. So I'm excited to have the privilege of kicking off this panel. And again, thank you all for being with us. Before we get started, there are a couple of housekeeping rules I want to just go over. One, again, as was mentioned, we just want to make sure everybody is muted and that you're on the speaker view. The complete bios for all of our panelists will be found at the speaker section of the event webpage. And there will be time set aside for questions and answers at the end of the panel discussion. So, if you're thinking of any questions while we're talking, please just jot those down or put them into the chat box, and we'll make sure we try to get to as many of them as we can. And also, you should know that we are recording the session. So if anything happens with your technology, please know that we can get you a recording once this is done and all that. So that's that. Now it's my pleasure to introduce the panel. Again, it's an amazing panel. I had the opportunity to meet these folks in prior meetings. And as I call your names, please take about 30 seconds to introduce yourselves, okay? So let's get started. First, we have Megan Shea, who is just been very, very helpful throughout this whole process. So Megan, if you would like to introduce yourself.
Sure, thanks, Tom. Hi, everyone. My name is Megan Shea. I am the co-founder, and I currently run a company called the Soulfull Project. My background, though, after business school, I worked at Nestle USA in Los Angeles for about 5 years, and I moved here to Jersey to work for Campbell's Soup and spent 5 years there. While I was at Campbell's, my co-founder and I developed the Soulfull Project, which is a B Corp certified company. We spun it out from Campbell's in 2018, and I've been operating independently, and it's a mission-driven for-profit company. So for every serving that someone buys of our oatmeal, we donate one to a food bank in the same region. Along that way, I started working with the food bank in South Jersey, as well as the other 199 other food banks in the country. And I joined the board for the food bank of South Jersey in 2019, and I became chairperson for the food bank in March of 2020. So very happy to be here and talking a little about both for-profit and not-for-profit.
Great. All right, thank you, Megan. Next, we have Pat from NJM. Pat, you want to just give a quick introduction to yourself?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I also recognize a lot of folks, and I want to say hi to the people who have said hi to me in the chat. I am the corporate giving officer at NJM Insurance Group. A little tidbit, NJM is my only full-time job ever. So I've been here just a few years and gone to a lot of different departments here, but it's all culminated with this role, which I'm very pleased to be able to represent, and it really goes along with our core value of supporting the communities we're privileged to serve. So that's just a little tidbit about me, and I think there's other reading if you want to learn more. Thank you, Tom.
Great, very good. And then we have Dennis. Dennis, you want to give a quick introduction of yourself?
Sure, thanks, Tom. I'm Dennis Miller. I'm the founder and chairman of DCM Associates, based here in New Jersey. We are a national executive search firm for nonprofit C-suite, CEO, COO positions. We also have the Center for Nonprofit Leadership and Board Performance, so we provide a lot of tools for leadership development and board development, and delighted to be here with all of you today. Thank you very much.
That's great. Thank you all. Now I think we'll get right into some of these important questions. So Megan, as you did your introduction, you talked about the Soulfull Project being a B Corp. Can you share with us a little bit more about what this type of unique organization is and how it functions?
Sure, happy to. B Corp was started by actually in Wayne, Pennsylvania, a number of years ago. And the idea is for-profit corporations, it's giving a home and a designation and a certification that you stand for something more than just returns to your shareholders, so that you are providing some other benefit. The benefit can be like Soulfull Project, where it's a literal benefit. For every serving that someone buys, we donate one to a food bank. But what's really amazing about B Corp certified companies is they span every industry, from manufacturing, construction, to banking, to real estate, to consulting, because there's so many different benefits that you can offer. Everything from employee living and employee wages all the way through to environmental. But it's really just about giving a home for-profit corporations that really want to show that they are doing more than just generating a profit. And I think it's important for both the companies, the employees, right? B Corp companies can attract employees that are very motivated by that, but also by consumers.
Wow, that's incredible. So as you said, in your case, it's like a 1-for-1, and that's your decision. That's how you want to run your particular organization. So that's good. And again, good for our nonprofit partners to know that organizations like yours exist, because again, there's opportunities there, right? Like if, for example, if there's a food bank on this call, or paying attention to this, they might want to contact you and see if there's an opportunity to work with them and all that sort of thing. So very good information. I know that Jody Grinwald had talked about, maybe putting some more information about this. So for the council, the nonprofit council for the NJBIA, stay tuned, and Jody may have more on this for everybody, in the future. So again, Megan, thank you for sharing that, and thank you for being part of this program, because I think that's really I didn't even really know much about a B Corp before I met you and all this. So it's a great learning opportunity. So thanks again. So now, Pat, at NJM, what advice would you give our nonprofits in getting to know your local for-profits better? And how do you tailor conversations that are not just about funding?
Well, I have several suggestions and glad to offer them for sure. The nonprofits may wish to attend sessions where nonprofits and for-profits can meet. And one of these is Princeton Community Works. It's an excellent forum, and networking there is strongly encouraged, and lots of opportunity there to do that. Also, some for-profits have initiatives where they promote nonprofit board service. So through organizations such as Nonprofit Connect, you might be able to get board members from for-profits, and they would be participant of Nonprofit Connect's program. So that may be another way. You also might want to see if someone in your current network has a contact at a for-profit of interest, and see if that colleague is willing to make an introduction. You could then ask the for-profit to just have a few minutes to hear about your organization's work in the community. If no one in your network happens to have this contact, you may be able to find an email address online, and you could send an introductory note. I would suggest a briefer note, but make a compelling case about the impact your organization has on the community. You may not wish to discuss funding at all at that time, but just acquaint the reader with your organization. And you could also choose to do it via a hard copy letter. One thing that we ask a lot is to find out from the nonprofit what void would exist in the community if your organization did not exist. It's a very easy way to get what the mission is, what the impact is. So that's something that if you had an answer for that question, that might be pretty powerful. And once the initial contact's been made, you may wish to invite the for-profit representative to tour your program or facility. It could even be done virtually in this time of COVID. You'd want to use your time wisely, of course, and make sure that the high-level overview is given about all the services. In addition to the leadership of the organization, you may wish to have a board member and also offer some sort of interaction with clients. Again, may have to be virtual. For-profits have budget constraints, and sometimes funding could be committed in a particular year, but many for-profits can assist in other ways, such as providing employee volunteers, donating equipment and furniture, printing service, office tours, educational sessions. So don't be afraid to discuss these types of needs as well. And once you've begun a dialogue with a for-profit, be sure to ask what's preferable about the timing of future communication and check-ins, and at what point in time would the for-profit like updates. And to remember that relationships of these sorts, they have the potential to strengthen over time if they're nurtured.
Wow, that's great, Pat. Thank goodness this is being recorded, because that was a lot of great information, a lot of really great tips. And one thing that you mentioned that struck me right at this point in time is the virtual tours. You know, I know all our nonprofit partners struggle to meet new people, and these corporations try to get them out try to get them to even answer a phone call. So, you know, if you can do something quick, a virtual tour obviously takes up much less time, you know, in their day. They don't have to travel to your location, all that sort of thing. It's not as good as an in-person tour, but it is a great way to really take advantage of this COVID situation we're in and really try to get people to at least get a little more acquainted, as you said, to let them know a little bit about the organization before you go right into asking for money or donations, that sort of thing. So that's a very good tip, and as well as all the others that you just gave. So good job. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Absolutely. So Dennis, you know, when looking to hire executives for nonprofits, and I know that's like, you know, where you help what your organization does, what type of collaborative work with the for-profits are you looking for in their resumes that would be favorable? So, you know, these folks that are looking to work for nonprofits, you actually look for some of that information to see, are they good at collaborative partners, correct? So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, Tom, boards today are seeking a lot of different competencies for leadership, but two stand out here. One is the term CEO today stands for not just Chief Executive Officer, it stands for Chief External Officer and Chief Entrepreneurial Officer. So what we look for our clients is people who can demonstrate that they've been collaborative with other organizations that have a social impact in their past here. It's no longer about just going alone, doing it alone here. So we look for people that can demonstrate previously that they have the experience or competency to be able to work with other organizations on a social impact. Here's an example here. So if an organization is involved with looking for a CEO of say, of affordable housing, and a candidate can demonstrate that not only did they work with affordable housing, but they same time work with a organization on the food bank side. They've also worked with an organization for job training. That's what people are looking for today, that not going alone, collaboration. And the real question is how to create value. So it's huge today, collaboration. It's more than just cooperating. Collaboration today is a deeper meaning of truly working with others and a shared goal here and working with your board. So it's a big issue here. So we look to see what experience have you had in helping your own organization or your previous organization make the transition, because at times, as you know, and as other speakers have talked about today, it can be a resistance to kind of collaborating. They want to stick going it alone. But today we're seeking people, and the boards are seeking people who can collaborate, who can be that chief entrepreneur officer of finding not just funders, it's finding investors, people to invest in your organization and a mutual benefit. That's the big thing that I would mention to everybody. It's not just seeking funders anymore and sponsors, it's seeking people that invest in your success. And that's a key part of the search process for us today.
That's great, Dennis. That's really good information. And you know, collaboration, I know in a lot that we do with our company, working with our nonprofit partners, the more you see that, there's for the nonprofits out there, from the company's perspective, when you can make a contribution to an organization that's working with, say, 2 or 3 or 4 or 10 other nonprofits in your community, you feel like your dollars are going much further, and you feel like those dollars are much more efficiently spent because folks are working together and using their benefits, what they have, the pros and cons of what each organization has, and really getting a lot more accomplished.
I remember coming out of a conference and having a prominent board, a bank board CEO and chair say to me, Dennis, why don't more of these organizations collaborate? And I never forgot that. And it's just that it is, and if you can put together a proposal with multiple partners, you're going to have a more chance of getting funding.
That's great. Very good information. Thank you. Next, we're going to go back to Megan and ask you, what are some of the in-kind services or products that nonprofits should look to bring to support their work?
Sure. I think I'm going to look at it from both the not-for-profit, but also the for-profit side. And as board chair for the food bank of South Jersey, I know at the end of the day, fundraising is key, right? And raising the dollars is key. But on the other side of it, especially for smaller companies, or as you're building relationship, or just even looking to expand on a relationship, I think that looking for in-kind can be just as important, and maybe even lead to a deeper relationship like Dennis just talked about, by looking for beyond, just volunteers either packing boxes or something like that. If you look and see the partners that you have today and where they're experts in, coming in and helping you either with a marketing strategy plan, maybe someone that is an expert at digital marketing and SEO, and that can go deep and do a project for you, a smaller term, right, helping you with one specific area. That, obviously you can quantify that in terms of budget and a donation back to your organization. I really think looking at the value of your partners and what they can offer beyond just maybe the labor or like a group volunteer is really important. For the not-for-profits that I find a lot of inspiration from, Food Bank of New York and Fulfill is also doing the same program. They leveraged their partners that are tax preparers because it ties back to their mission and around shortening the line. And so they have tax preparers come out every tax season and help their clients do their taxes to make sure that more money is going back into their clients' pockets at the end of the day, which helps reduce the reliance on the need for the food bank. So I think that there's 2 areas that you can really look at it. One is, are there specific needs that rather than going out and hiring a consultant, that you can ask one of your partners? And for the for-profit, that's really beneficial too, because for so many of them, they have employees that are looking for development. They're looking for more meaning, more purpose, or looking to advance their career. And projects like that can really give them a specific example of ways for them to advance their career that they might not get in their everyday job. So I think that it really can be beneficial for both parties to look beyond just the kind of one-off volunteer relationship and really look to deepen that with more in-kind services.
That's great, Megan. I know, with our company, again, we do a lot of that because, there's not a bottomless pit in the charity in terms of dollars. And of course, we'd all rather, give dollars. I know our friends at Fulfilled, you mentioned Kim Guadano and Linda Kellner over there. They often will say, like, if we're trying to donate items, let's say, and like cases of water, for example, well, they can purchase those so much cheaper and all that. That's where you should be putting your money towards something like that, perhaps. Of course, you always want your employees to be able to be involved in things like that. So that's great. But, in terms of a charity, like, rather than buy items to give them the money so they can do that. But there's so many other things that we can do. Like, we have our retired vehicles, for example. There's people that need vans. So we give the ones that are in decent shape, we'll donate those for free to those organizations because they get a van. Or, we've had our communications folks create logos for some nonprofits that don't have the wherewithal to really do that on their own. It's like, you just really have to think outside the box. In fact, I would say, even if you're a small group of 5 people in your nonprofit, sit down, perhaps do a little brainstorming as the things that you need for your organization. and then try to figure out who are the businesses in your local community that could maybe provide that for free or at a very steep discount, that sort of thing. So, just keep thinking outside the box, and you'll find other ways to really help your organization. That's not just dollars. So thank you for your insight, because that's always very helpful. I appreciate that, as always. And then next, Pat, what type of benefits do you like to see when your written proposals are coming through, when you're collaborating with your nonprofits?
Well, I like to start off with saying the more advance notice we get, the better it is for us for giving attention to all the different benefits, as well as having complete specifications, because then we will not have to do the follow-up that we might need to do. So different benefits that we have taken advantage of are a variety. Sending attendees ads and journals, and the journals now can be either paper or more recently virtual or digital. Mentioned in press releases, website connections, social media mentions, logos on t-shirts, signs, and other related golf event benefits. We also might take a vendor table at different events to get the word out about our company. So the whole variety of types of things that we take advantage of. However, sometimes, being an auto insurance company, sometimes the benefits are such that we can't take advantage, something like a happy hour, because it's alcohol related. So we may ask for a substitution, and we really appreciate the flexibility of charities in crafting something that is more palatable to us, that we'd have no problem with taking advantage of. So just to mention that. And also, sometimes I've heard this from other companies as well, if something is a little too rigid and you're not able to take advantage of it, you may end up losing the sponsorship altogether. So that's the real importance of flexibility. And also, we do have volunteers here. So if there is a volunteer opportunity, employee engagement opportunity, we certainly appreciate that as well, and often take advantage of that.
That's great. That's great. And Pat, I know we talked about this a little bit in the past, but the that flexibility that you mentioned is just so key. It's same for our company. Sometimes there's things that, every nonprofit tries to put together their sponsorship packages and do the best they can, and say this is kind of a one. They don't mean to say one size fits all, but that's how it comes across in a sense. But if you're open to making some adjustments, and we never want a nonprofit to have to expend more money to adjust something, but sometimes it may be, well, we don't necessarily need the ad in the ad journal, for example, but we could use an extra seat at a table or something, whatever it might be. So it is great. And I think for our nonprofits, we know you work hard, and it's hard to try to be as flexible as everybody may need, but it really does help for the organizations that are trying to make the donations to really, be able to customize some of the sponsorships, if it makes sense for both parties. So
and that's like an example of a collaboration as well. You're collaborating together, and one of our sponsorships actually ended up being a permanent sponsorship for these particular events going forward once we made that custom change. So we really appreciate that.
Yeah, and just to your point, it also builds that relationship. You become like friendly people, as opposed to just one organization doing something for another. Like, you get to know each other better. You get to kind of understand your donors a little bit better. So again, I think that's important information. So again, thank you for that. We appreciate it always. Back to Dennis. Dennis, I know in the past you've led a large hospital nonprofit. And what were some of the benefits that you could offer your for-profit supporters that would keep them engaged?
Yeah, it's a great question, Tom, and I have a really good example. But a couple things that we did back in those days was really kind of sort out the business of our community to get advice. It's amazing how simple asking someone for advice, how it creates a relationship. Just asking advice, not even asking money, asking for advice. So we were asking advice. I'll never forget this. If I can say the company, it's Sanofi Aventis. And we had a large oncology program, and there was research about difficulties of having, particularly women, getting mammograms. And we were under the impression that the reason for that was just because of insurance. And we found out that are actually not the reason for not getting mammograms, was that this was back again 16 years ago. Research showing that women were putting everybody ahead of themselves, their husband or spouse or partner, their kids or the job, and not themselves. So it wasn't the insurance, it was that they had no time left. So one of the things that we created was really cool, and I take no personal credit, was we ended up creating a situation where we would get appointments for their staff and have a bus pick them up and take them to the hospital for a mammogram during work hours.
Wow.
It was such a cool thing. And what it did was just built a fabulous relationship with us and Sanofi, which, you know, and then Sanofi ended up actually having a board meeting at our hospital. And then they got involved and became the big sponsor of our breast care program. But there's an example of things that you kind of got to think out of the box about. And so a couple of things that just, it's part of this answer, if I can, Tom. There are so many ways that businesses and nonprofits benefit from each other in a mutual benefit. It's not pitting one another here. Certainly the idea that there's many organizations I know of that from an employee orientation point of view, they actually go through a nonprofit organization to see the kind of work they do as part of their employee orientation, because that's sort of their mission here. So the more you can open up your organization as a nonprofit to a for-profit, invite them to become volunteers, to partner with you on an event here. What it does, it creates really good morale for when people feel they're doing something really good in the community. It's great. It also boosts morale for the company, because the company is going to get exposed to all of your clients, your donors, your volunteers. It's really good thing. It's great for the image here. So I always find ways of, we used to create, and back at the hospital days, one time there was this like huge community service board. And I said, what is this? It was like 90 people. And I found it was like an outplacement firm for all the board members. And I said, this is just silly, it has no impact. But we created smaller advisory boards, women's health, senior services, oncology, etc. And we brought people into the community to get their advice. And it was perfect because it was a subject matter. And so often, you know, people create advisory boards, but the one thing they don't get or they don't ask for is advice. So in terms of engaging people in the for-profit, nonprofit world here, is finding ways of collaborating, seeking advice. And I think both your business and your nonprofit mission will serve each other well. And that's my memories of that. And that's what I advocate for today.
That's great. Thank you, Dennis. That's really, again, great information. Again, you know, a lot of organizations have so much to offer and they don't even think about offering that to their sponsors and all that. So really good information. Again, another way that they can partner, build relationships and all that. So thank you for your comments on that. Megan, we're gonna go back to you and ask you this question. What are some of the ideas that you feel might help nonprofits showcase their for-profit partners better so that their relationship can grow and, you know, people get more excited and it becomes more valuable?
Well, I want to go back to Dennis's last point. Doing a fundraising round for with VC firms, we were always taught, you know, if you ask for money, you get advice. If you ask for advice, you know, hopefully you get some money. So I think that's probably the best advice. I think Dennis is absolutely right there. You know, I think that at the end of the day, what companies are really struggling with and will, you know, is employee engagement and how they reach consumers and potential, you know, customers for them in organic ways. And partnering with local not-for-profits, you are the only organization that can help a company do that, do both of those. And so when you think about the value that you bring to companies, it's tremendous. You know, because not only are you helping your local community, but you're helping to solve two big issues. One, by giving opportunities for their employees, current as well as future employees, to see how connected the company is locally, to see how involved, to see that it goes beyond maybe 1 or 2 days a year, but a real long-term relationship. And you do that through in-kind services, through advisory boards where you actually leverage your advice, through board development boards, right? bringing on junior executives and having them be part of your board development program. There's lots of different ways that you can engage these companies, which then help really engage their employees and give them the meeting that they're really looking for. And then the other aspect is organic reach. Direct mail was mentioned, but organic in social media, in SEO, on the internet, that is everything. It is almost impossible to get. But when a for-profit company engages with your not-for-profit organization, the best thing I think that you can do is to share it, to tag them, to share it on all social media channels, to share it on LinkedIn, because that will live forever. And so potential customers, potential consumers, potential employees, they all will look at their page and they will see the level of engagement. And it should hopefully go beyond a big check picture, right? It should be a conversation talking about how they're really helping you with your mission. So that genuine content and call out, I think, is just one of the best things that you can do for your company, for your partners.
That's great, Megan. Yeah. And it's, sometimes when you're in this world of, being a corporation and looking to give dollars and all that, it's kind of a awkward spot to have to say, oh, can we get a little recognition or whatever? I know in our case, our customers have said, you do so many good things. We don't know about it. We want to know about it. So we're sort of wedged and forced into a position to try to make sure we're letting them know the things that we do. And that's through our nonprofit partners, as you mentioned before. But, it can be simple things. Like I know I mentioned an organization once, they do the golf outing and everybody gets their T sign at the golf outing, at a different hole. And I said, those are good to use like just on your little property out front of your business or whatever, put them along the road and just say, thanks to our sponsors, and just use those same signs. It doesn't cost you anything. Just put them out. And so, if an employee drives by there from the corporation or a leader drives by, they see those things. It just makes everybody feel good, very positive, doesn't cost a nonprofit anything. But it's, again, so those little things that make you stand out or make you think out of the box a little bit that I think just grabs people's attention in many different ways. So I appreciate your comments on that. And again, for our nonprofit partners out there, it's, it doesn't have to be expensive stuff. It's just thinking about it and keeping an eye on that to make sure that you're always engaging your sponsors, your supporters, your donors to kind of keep them part of the family and keep them excited. So
it's true. I mean, I think the one thing is you don't realize how much power you really have, right? You're connecting with the community and you're giving a company a chance to really showcase their logo, but also the story. And so you really do have a lot of power, and should definitely feel free to use it.
That's true. Our partners, our nonprofits are very valuable. They make our world a much better place, and we all know it. We just sometimes, I know it's hard to get to us sometimes and things like that, but it's important, and you keep working at it, you'll be successful. Thank you, Megan. Appreciate that. So Pat, I know NJM gives out a lot of dollars on both the grants and program side, but can you give some examples of the collaborations that have worked well with you and NJM?
Sure. Well, as I mentioned before, our contributions are given in a broad way because of our broad core value of supporting the communities we're privileged to serve. So we actually look to form these long-term partnerships with nonprofits, giving various types of support beyond the dollars. As everybody's mentioned, it's like a well-rounded relationship from engagement. We engage beyond our employees. We also engage volunteers from our retiree base to keep them connected to the company. We give in-kind donations, attendance at the events, as we said, and beyond. We also may, as we develop the relationship further, join event committees for charity events and also board service. So we do try to really have a lot of touch points with our nonprofit partners. A couple examples that we have where it's been a really long-term, very embedded partnership is with Junior Achievement of New Jersey and the American Heart Association. So we're on event committees for those organizations. We provide input for volunteer opportunities. And we have as a practice here for all our volunteer opportunities, we survey our volunteers, but beyond that, we want the 360-degree view. We also survey the nonprofit. to make sure our volunteers met their expectations. And then the three of us, this would be Junior Achievement in New Jersey and the American Heart Association, we have a link together as well, because Junior Achievement actually participates on the NJM sponsored team for the Heart Walk. So it's really been quite the partnership. We have another partnership I'll mention as well too. We like to, as we're able to collaborate, we have a statue at a nonprofit that we've adopted, and we do plantings, and we seek to get those plants from a nonprofit partner. So we're always looking for that type of interaction. And with respect to difficulties, the most difficulties we get really is when it's the 11th hour and we're made aware of something that we really want to support, and it's like a scramble here. So as I mentioned before, as things can get to us with a good amount of advance notice for planning, it's just a gift to us. So they are my remarks, Mom.
That's great. Thanks, Pat. And that's a great thought. I know often, for like auctions and things like that, I'll go to the Habitat for Humanity restores throughout the state, and they always have some really cool items, maybe collectibles or very unique pieces of furniture. And I'll buy the furniture or item from them and then donate it to another nonprofit for their gala or something. Again, it's a way of, collaborating with several different organizations to support all of them throughout the whole process. So I think that's very important. And again, I appreciate that your mindset is the same, that you think about that. For those of us on the line that are business people, we should be thinking about that. How do you benefit other nonprofits, all at the same time? Don't just think, oh, I only can go to a store and buy that. There are things you can get from other nonprofits that can, like the Girl Scouts, you can go and buy cases of cookies and donate them to some other organization. It's a great way to help both organizations. So all those types of things are great. And again, the collaborations are wonderful. Again, we work with some nonprofits like the Monmouth Park Charity Fund in our area. We give a grant just for collaborative grants to give out in the community. And, we brought other organizations together to work together and all that. So those are really good tools at really expanding what we can do within our collective strength, and not only dollars, but, in-kind services to really support as many nonprofits all at the same time. So kudos to you and NJM for doing that great work.
Thanks, Tom.
Absolutely. Dennis, we're going to go back to you with our final question before we go into the speed round, if we have a few minutes. But where should nonprofits go to find for-profit support? What can they do to think out of the box, as we've talked about as well?
Well, a couple of things, and I want to just, start with NJBIA right here. There's many members. It's why we're involved with NJBIA, and the respective county chambers, I think, is a very important source of potential support. Having said that, though, a couple of things to our fellow nonprofit colleagues to remind everybody as to why people actually support organizations, why they give money. Yes, they give because they've been asked, which is number one reason. Yes, they give to someone they trust and respect, but there's two things that nonprofit organization needs to know. One is that people give to success these days, not to distress. So the more you can communicate the impact, the positive impact you're having in the community, the better off you are. If you just talk about you need, it's sort of like the tin cup theory of fundraising, which is like the beggar in front of the Port Authority, sitting on a cardboard box, disheveled, looking a little bit like me with a tin cup selling pencils. That's very unappealing these days. So that's important to understand, that you as an organization have a responsibility to convey the success and impact you're having. Second thing, it may be a nuance of words that sound like but people give to the needs of those you serve, not your organizational needs. I know it's a play on words, but the more, again, you can have the people that you serve, are they on your website? Can they tell their story on your homepage? So I think it's important to have, understand that people will give to the needs of those you serve more than your organizational needs. So I would be reaching out through the membership of NJBIA to your county chambers of commerce. I would be inviting them to be volunteers in your organization. I would ask them to considered me a member of maybe an advisory board. And I would even reach out to people to be considered to be part of your board, because your board wants to represent the community here. So I think in terms of this opportunities for support, they're enormous. But there's a final thought, Tom, that I have that if I could convey this, which is that too often, and I was on the other side of this for, 25 years asking, for money. I was good at it. But one of the things that we have to do today is, as we're asking someone to support us financially, think about what's the value that they will have in this process? What's the value the company's going to have versus what our needs are? And I think the more you can convey understanding the so-called donor benefit, the donor value, I think you'll be more than halfway there. So that's a little bit of my advice about donor value. Communicate your success. People want to be surrounded with successful stories. And I think that'll help. Hope so, Tom.
That's great. Thank you, Dennis. Appreciate that very much. We have just a couple of minutes. We're going to do a couple of questions that we had in what we called our speed round that our panelists could answer. And then we're going to go into our Q&A. So, I see some questions going through. Please feel free to put some more questions into the chat and I'll try to get those next. But in our speed round, one of the questions we have are, what are elements you think should appear on the homepage of a nonprofit's website? So Pat, maybe I can start with you. I know you had mentioned some things and we'll go to Megan and Dennis on that. Go ahead.
Well, I think that it's most important that the website is not stale. I've viewed websites over the time, and if you go out, sometimes things are 2 years old. So that's an overall comment. Another overall comment is to make sure the website is responsive to clicks, and make sure you test that, because people will tend to move on if the website is a bit lethargic. As far as the first page, I think to find the mission, tax ID number is helpful for us. Being accessible, maybe not on the first page, but the board, financials, history, the impact, those types of things. And also the anything to do with events, those, and a calendar, that sort of thing, or having those very apparent when someone is researching your website, because that's really a window into the organization. So you want to make sure that window is fresh, up to date, and easily accessible.
Great, very good tips. Megan, anything to add to that?
I think Pat's exactly right. I think making sure that your website is constantly updated with calendar. Ideas on collaboration, I think, are examples of how you've collaborated with either for-profit, but other not-for-profit. But I think making sure that your website's updated. If you have a website at this point and you have pictures of people together and they're not wearing a mask, it looks like it's 18 months old, right? So just making sure that it's responsive to what's going on, so that people know that you're going. And then the last thing, if your website needs to be optimized for mobile. Most people are looking at websites on phones. So it is an extra step, but you need to do it. You need to be accessible to where the people are looking at the majority of devices.
Very good. Good point, Megan, with that.
If I could just jump in, I would add video. The more you can use video, the better off you are these days versus tons of wording. And I think it's really important for the people going on your website to see actually who serves on your board, who's on your leadership team, but I have someone that you've served tell their story to me is most important.
Right. Very good. It's interesting because I do agree. And there's questions like, should the corporate partners be listed there? Again, it only needs to be a link. You need to go on the website and just see. You don't need to put everything on the front, but have very clear links. Some I have trouble. I've go on and I can't even find a contact person or a phone number.
Yes, exactly.
I'm like researching and I find you might give up and say, well, I guess they don't really care to have us contact them about maybe being involved with them or something. So I think for our nonprofit partners, there's some very simple basics that really need to be on your website. Easy access to your people. Yeah. Some of us are old fashioned. We like to talk to people on the phone. We want to call you. So make sure you have a phone number there and, those kinds of things. So, and again, most of you do this, but we just want to make sure that everybody's hearing that same succinct kind of messaging. One of the other questions we had is, if you were a nonprofit sending out a blast email to give an update or to ask for funding, how should that be framed? Is there a subject line that you have seen that works best to encourage people to open an email? We know this is an ongoing problem. It's hard for nonprofits to, again, actually make a connection. So anybody have any ideas on, great ways to do emails?
I'll start. We really believe in storytelling, and you have amazing stories to tell. And so going back to what Dennis said, right? Tell a story versus asking for money. Tell a story about a recent impact, who you've helped, the work that you're doing, and you'll always have the opportunity to give money at the end of the email, but really focus as if you're kind of informing your key stakeholders every week on what you're doing. And the other thing is, the diving into the data that your website, your email, your social media give you. Those channels give you incredible data on who's opening them, who's reading them, your click-through rate. All of that is incredibly important. So taking the time or finding an expert to help you really identify, segregate out, optimize your email list so that you're sending targeted emails to the right people, it's worth it. It's worth your time for you, but also for your recipients.
That's great. Pat or Dennis, anything on this?
Yeah, I think that if you can just, in a quick title, you got 2 or 3 words, something like great inspirational story, hear Lisa's story, hear Tom's story, something that's attractive quickly to you, but make it about, so you want to hear an inspirational story. That's something that's quick and positive. That's my, I'm not a media guy, but that's what I would do. I'm very positive.
Okay.
What would help us is to know that it's from what organization, because we do get slews of emails, and to know that it's in the subject and use the subject. It's limited, so use it wisely. But what is the organization? And then perhaps, as Dennis was saying, read the story or something, but to know, because there are lots of emails that come in from all sorts of places anymore. And to know that it's an organization that you might have recognized as being local would be helpful to us as we sort through them on a daily basis.
Very good. Excellent. All very good information. I know I get tons of emails, and it's always, trying to navigate through all of them and try to get everything else done in your day. So it is a tricky minefield, I think, for all of us, for-profits and nonprofits, to get people to read whatever it is you're trying to get them to read, right?
Yeah.
So we're all in this together, team. All right. So one more question here. Let's see. All right. So there was a question about direct mail. Like, do you feel it is something that nonprofits should be focusing on to get their information out to the for-profit community, even though there can be a high cost associated with this, as opposed to, email and all that? So,
yeah, I think, Tom, I think it is.
Dennis, let's start with you.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I apologize, but I think direct mail is okay these days. I mean, I think the fact that there's so many emails, I think occasional nice direct mail piece, but make it short and sweet and tell the story. Don't be elongated with paragraphs and pages. Have a short, impactful story. Good.
Megan?
I have a love-hate relationship with direct mail. I have to tell you, I hate it. I cannot believe it works. But I do believe in data, and the data shows that it still works. I just think that the ROI on that, and I guess it still works, but yep. I'm in shock every time.
It is funny. I would tell you, as a utility, we send out a bill insert every month with the bill and all that. Yeah, I know everybody loves getting their bill, but we are always amazed on how many people read our bill insert. Like, that's how they find out about certain programs that we're doing, or to join us at our Ocean Fun Days event, or whatever we're doing. It's amazing and remarkable how many people still read the bill insert. So there are people that still like that piece of mail. And I think as we get overwhelmed with email, sometimes it is like a little bit of a refresher, as Dennis said, that, you're getting something in the mail, you actually can open something and kind of look at something, as opposed to just on your computer. So, expensive, I would say, make sure it's very pointed and direct. And as you both say, you got to really make sure your message is clear and try to get the most out of it. But, you know, if it's pointed and targeted and you're really making the most of it, then, you know, it's still a viable channel. Pat, any thoughts from you on that?
Well, I had this idea, I think I shared it with you, Tom, that if an organization was able to look at the mailing list and determine what the postage cost and the paper cost and everything involved in direct mail was, and then go out to folks and ask and have a campaign and ask them if they would convert to email, this is how much we could, and you take the overall numbers, this is how much we could plow back into our mission if we did that, and then have a barometer on the website to show how many people have accepted that and how much money is going back into the mission. It's just sort of an out of the box thought of how maybe people would convert more to email.
Gotcha. That's great. Thank you very much, everybody, for that speed round. We have about 10 minutes left, and we promised we'd do the Q&A for 10 minutes, so we're right on time. So I'm going to start with, I'm just going in order of the ones that I've received, some privately, some or everybody can see, I guess. But the first one I received is, has anyone had difficulty attracting board members from throughout the state? This particular group has 70 programs throughout the state, but have not been successful in getting board members from all the different parts of the states. They're headquartered in Hainesport, New Jersey. And can we speak to that? Any thoughts on that from any of our panelists?
Well, I think, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Dennis, please.
I think clearly if geographical geography is very important. If you are a statewide organization, you don't want to have everybody from Paramus, New Jersey on your board. So besides understanding the competencies you need here, I'd be looking out again to NJBAA and the county chambers for contacts to help you become introduced to somebody is what I would do. And so I think asking for an introduction to someone through NJBAA would be one of the ways I'd go about it. That's initially off the top of my head.
That's great. Good, Megan?
I was just going to say, at the food bank, we're constantly looking for board members from all the counties that we serve to have that diversity. And so it is a struggle. And if there's anyone here in Salem that knows any prospective board members, please let us know.
Hey, it all works. Every networking, that's great. Pat, any thoughts?
I think one place to look is where your supporters are. If you've made a compelling case and you have supporters in different areas of the state or even beyond, and in this period of COVID, boundaries really don't exist the way they used to exist, you might be able to attract folks from beyond areas that you would even have imagined before, and they can come in virtually to your meetings. So I would think if there are supporters, you've made a compelling story on your website, analyze those supporters. Who are those heavy supporters? And could you possibly tap them to be part of your board because they already believe in you? So you may
That's
have
great.
them out there.
Hey,
That's
Tom,
great.
just one other thing if I can.
Yes.
Tom, just one other thing. If you're looking for statewide board members, you have to make sure you're communicating statewide. If in order for people to join your board, they have to know about you and the impact you're having. So you got make sure you're focusing on communicating statewide.
Yes, that's
I mean, if no one knows you, they
sure.
don't know you.
Yep, for sure. And just one last comment from myself, just interesting. In this time of COVID, we've all learned to use the virtual, technology as we're all using right now. So, I know I've served on some statewide boards. Part of the problem was getting to the meetings because they're up this end of the state or that, now we have virtual at everybody's fingertips. We're all used to using it. It's a perfect time to be able to get members that can just show up to the meetings virtually. And as a lot of us have seen, I know I serve on 20 different boards for nonprofits, and I will tell you, we have more people coming to the meetings now that it's virtual than we did in the past because everybody can sign right on and then sign off and go right back to whatever they were doing. There's no travel time. There's no getting, if people want to be in their pajamas, be in your pajamas. But, it just makes life easier when we have this virtual opportunity. So I would certainly encourage people to use that more to their advantage, especially on the statewide level, but at every level, even locally, I think people enjoy that. The next question I'm seeing here is it says, with all the noise that funders are receiving in ways of email, You know, how do nonprofits break through the noise to just have a conversation and share their mission? We kind of talked about this a little bit, I think, but I think we can go into a little bit, you know, a couple quick thoughts on that. Again, how do nonprofits break through the noise of emails and all that just to have a conversation and share their mission?
I'll just jump and start here. I think it's, again, repeat myself, but I think it's storytelling. I think nonprofits have to tell their story, and I think it's through the eyes of those they serve. And if you can have people that you've taken care of, people that you've helped, if they can tell the story from their perspective here, I'll never forget, if I can, Tom, and it has a very tough part of the message, but it had a resounding success. Years ago, I had a client that eventually had a gala, and I asked if they could have someone speak on their behalf, and it was dealt with domestic violence, and they was like, well, it's very confidential. So, but there's a woman that's agreed to speak, and she told her story, and it was a very difficult story. But at the end, she said, I want to thank this organization because of you, my daughters and I, we have a new life, we have a new house, we're happy, we're healthy, we're safe. I can't thank you enough. It just resonated throughout the room here. And so I think I can't reiterate again more and more, tell the story through the eyes of those you serve.
Good.
When we launched the Soulfull Project, we had no funding and no marketing, but we had social media, and we had our first 3 giving partners: Food Bank of South Jersey, Community Food Bank, and Fulfill, and Fill Abundance 4. And so our small team actually set out to do 100 days of giving, and we chronicled it on social media, with the idea being like we would do it as a timeline. And we wound up doing it stories and telling the stories about the giving partners we were working with. And each day we had a new post. We went from having 300 Facebook followers to 16,000 in 90 days through the power of storytelling. And we didn't talk about ourselves, we talked about our partners. We were telling the stories that we were seeing, and the volunteers or the people that were giving and where we were helping. And so the importance of storytelling across all channels is so critical. And storytelling through real person, through the first person stories, through pictures, through videos, you have an amazing connection that most of us don't have, and that we all want to see more good in the world. And so leverage that through all of the channels that you have available. And don't worry about asking for money, because I truly believe that if you tell a story and the work that you're doing, the money will come.
Great. All right. We have just a couple more minutes here, 2 more minutes exactly. So one last question here I think we can get to is, are there any new best practices for nonprofits to provide benefit to corporate supporters? So I know we touched on this a little bit, but is there any kind of best practices that any of us have seen that, like, wow, that really did it for our organization, that sort of thing? I'll give an example for something for our company while you guys are thinking. You know, we work with the Red Cross, for example, and we just asked them to provide us with updates on what they're doing at the moment so we can inform our employees who all care about what's going on. Like right now, what's been going on in the Midwest and Texas. You know, for our company, we're a utility, so we see the folks out there suffering without, you know, their utilities and all that sort of thing. So we just ask them for updates so that we can just share with our employees so that they all feel connected to what we're supporting and what we're doing. So I always think that kind of stuff, like feeding your for-profits some updates on what you're doing in a brief way, and with an idea that what's the best way that you can give it right to them that they could then just send it out to the employees, might be one of those tips as to, you know, keeping engaged. So I don't know if anybody else has any other thoughts on that.
Tom,
Okay.
I'll be quick. I think co-planning everything, that if there are events, engagements, that sort of thing, it's all that collaboration again. That has served us very well as far as, and I'll mention junior achievement again. We do everything. We make suggestions, they make suggestions to us, and we go in with a complete understanding of what's going to happen. We have pre-training, that sort of thing. So those sorts of collaborations. We've also started a series at NJM for our employees, similar to what you're saying. If we're fed information, we have Charity Spotlight where we are putting that on our intranet and giving descriptions of how we're supporting the organizations, because we do have a matching program and employees have participated in that and may be matching those contributions as well.
Okay, great. And I apologize because I see we're at the 12:40, well, now 12:46. I think we're supposed to end at 12:45. So, excuse me, I'm getting all choked up. It's so exciting. But I do want to thank our panelists again, Pat Hartpence from NJM Insurance Group, Dennis Miller of DCM Associates, and Megan Shea of the Soulfull Project. And thank all of you for attending. Again, it's always wonderful to see our nonprofit partners out there. Believe me, we all want to support you. We wish we had enough money to support everything that you do, but you know, we are working on all of that, trying our best to partner on that. So thank you again. Again, there'll be the video about this, so you can follow up and, you know, get more information, get some of those notes that you might have missed. And then really until next time, you know, from all of us, you know, thank you. And we look forward to more wonderful work from the folks at NJBIA.
Great.
Thank you, Tom. Great job.
Yeah,
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Tom, and thank you to our panelists. That was an extremely informative panel discussion. And I also know we have one on demand as well. So, you know, don't forget that both of these panel discussions are available for the next week. So if you missed one, you still have an opportunity to check them out. And again, thank you for joining us this morning and into the afternoon. And we look forward to seeing you back here again tomorrow morning. So until then, be well, enjoy your day. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you.